Hello, this is Mai Vu, and I'm so excited today. I have to like calm myself down here. Today, welcome to another episode of Bold Brave Conversations. I have a very special guest. She used to be a client, now she's a colleague, she's a dear friend across the border in Canada.
Yes.
My
Yes.
Canada connection. Anyway, Cindy Roemer is here with us, and we are going to talk about what does it take to really listen and step into our sacred truth, right? Because this is what
Fabulous.
life is
Yeah.
all about. And let me just give a little intro to the show. I have been wanting to do this for so many years, and I'm so glad to just like get out there and do this. Is I want to talk to ordinary women like you and me doing our ordinary life, not realizing that there's so much boldness and bravery that went to into or go into what we're up to, right? I mean, we're so busy doing the, I call it the we shove ourselves into something, and then we shoot ourselves. You should do better. You should. And then we
Yeah.
then we shit on ourselves with judgment and all this stuff and disappointment in ourselves. So shove, should, shit, and then we shame ourselves for not being as good as that person. Or why can't you get your TikTok account up and all this stuff that goes on.
So true.
And then we shut up, and so that's what goes on in our head. And what I want to do with these conversations is to take the lid off of all of that and really land into our journey as human beings, like whatever it is. You could be up to something big like flying, the first little robots in Mars, or you could just like this morning I got out of bed and that took so much courage to just get out of bed. That's my range of bold and brave uh, ness that we all go through. So today we have with us Cindy Roemer. She is an intuitive guide. She is trained in NLP and also hypnotherapy. Yay!
Yes.
And she's here chatting with me around how do we step into our sacred truth? What the hell is sacred truth, Cindy? Or Cynthia. Sorry, she's now gone with her what do you call that name? Your
Oh, that's my
sacred name?
birth name.
Your birth name, Cynthia, which means what
Y-
again?
It actually means goddess of the moon.
There you
Look
go.
at that.
It all in alignment. The intuitive guide. Her name is Goddess of the Moon. Of course, you have to be tied to the moon.
Yeah. It's funny you say that about my name because I actually have had so much change within myself that was actually what prompted me to go back to my birth name. More of my authentic me. Yeah.
Oh, yay, you. Welcome home. Welcome
Well,
back and
thanks.
welcome home.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
tell us, let's dive in. What is sacred truth and why is it so hard to listen to it? And what happened when you listen to it? And la 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 la, I can go on.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's such a good question because we're, living our life day to day and there's all kinds of things happening around us. And, when I think about stepping into my sacred truth, and for anyone else out there, it's really about getting into alignment and honoring that you are this powerful creator and you have this opportunity to step into what I like to call sacred power skill sets, which is more of the actioning things that can really elevate your life. And then on the other side is, our energy of our just simply our being,
Mm,
um, and really just honoring ourselves in all that we are.
easier said than done. Ha!
Yeah, totally. It's a
And
journey.
yeah, before I ask you the next question, is like, so if you're watching this, we love comments. And if you have your own experience to tapping into your own sacred truth, by all means, please make a comment and share with us. We'd love to include you into this conversation. And so, Cindy, sacred truth. How, you know, I'm trying to think, like, how do you even recognize when it is your sacred truth, right? And I ask that because I know for myself, as a young child and growing up, I remember there were like a few moments where I had a random thought that just came in and tells me what's next, what to do next, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, and the first time that that really happened that I noticed was when I almost died when I was escaping out of Vietnam. And we
Wow.
were floating on this fishing boat for 9 months, and I couldn't eat. No, sorry, not 9 months, 9 days. I couldn't eat, and I kept throwing up, and my mom thought I was gonna die, and I went inside, and I'm like, "Holy shit, am I gonna die?" And I heard this voice that came back, and it said, "No, you're not gonna die. You have work to do in this world, and you haven't done it yet, so don't worry." So I just kind of like, okay, no problem. I'm back to being miserable. Like, yeah, is this over yet? Can I get the fuck out of this
Yeah.
world already? So that's
Totally.
so that was the first time. So what does sacred truth sound like to you or to most people?
Yeah. You know, similar to you, I've gotten into the space where, um, it's checking in with myself on something. And for me, I really have this, I would call it like a meta kinesthetic in my body. So it's almost like a really internal feeling. Not everyone would it, we actually call it the gut feeling, but I was going to say not everyone might necessarily hear it if we ask it. I think the more, you open your awareness to sort of the clues of the universe that the universe is presenting you all the time, and just really become aware of where you're at in your life and where you want to go. And that can simply be just by intentioning to, become more aware of this, divine connection that we have. For
Mm,
me as well, when I ask questions, I do hear it's almost like an inner voice. And those two coupled together have really been, they've really strengthened on my journey over the last couple of years. And primarily for me, it's been through all of the unconscious mind clearing, because that actually cleans out those filters. Maybe you've got some like old suppressed negative emotions, and then that
maybe.
allows you to connect higher, which
Yeah.
is exactly what happened to me. So it's like your intuition comes back online.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask you, like, what's the difference? Uh, how do you know, right? We all have inner voices, and some of them are not very nice. They're like,
Yeah, true.
May, why'd you do that? What'd you do that for? Don't you know better by now? Jesus Christ, you're 55 years old. Why do it keep happening to you? That's
Yeah.
not your inner guide, by the way. Just in case
True.
those who are listening think that that's your inner voice. No, that's your shit voice. That just
Yeah.
like spread it all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So, what does your inner voice sound like?
That's a great question. Never thought of that question, May. You know what? For me, it's it's like an internal hearing. It's kind of hard to explain it. Um, and for me, it's one of the things that sort of assisted me also is really asking myself, what is it that I want? And again, sort of tapping into the universe for clues that are presenting itself to me. Um,
Mm,
and the one thing that I really want to say is my life really changed in terms of my sacred truth when I really started to honor that I was creating it versus life was happening to me. And by honoring, being this beautiful creator, we have this opportunity to create more of the beautiful things that we really want. Um,
wow,
yeah.
you said so many things that like I want to like if I had a
Pull
yellow
them apart.
highlight, I go this one and this one, right? So let me slow that down.
Yeah.
So it's an internal hearing, so you have to listen to your inner self. And it's hard to listen to your inner self when you have a lot of mind chatter and like the self-judgment, the self-criticism, the self-shaming, the self-doubting, all of that. Those are not wisdom. Unfortunately, we listen to those quite often. So don't listen to those. And then what you're saying is it starts with sometimes it starts with what do you want? What do you want? What do I want? What do I want? And if you ask that question at least 5 times, not 2, not 1 for sure, because when you just ask what do you want, you're like, well, I just want to not have this anymore. That's not wisdom. We haven't gotten there yet. So you got to go again. And what do you really want? Well, I don't know. I just want this to stop. Okay, great. Now, what do you really, really want? By the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th want, that's when you start to get closer to the truth, closer to what's your sacred truth, right? Your inner wisdom.
Totally. And what you said at the beginning about like, oh, I should be doing this. Well, when you're shitting on yourself, that's actually not your should. It belongs to somebody else.
Right.
So,
but you carried it in your head though. So that's where you are responsible for that. It doesn't belong to you and you kept it way too long. Take that out and just like drop it into the ether.
You're right. Yes.
I like this energetic flick it.
Flick it. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then I love that you said the universe gives you clues all the time. So let's talk about clues. What are some clues that look like?
Oh, clues. You know, the clues are so important, and they're also so important for you to recognize by becoming aware of them. And so for me, you know, I really have started to see everything as a clue from the universe. It could be from, you know, something that's on a you know, big banner to, you know, a song on the radio, to, you know, meeting new people and what's going on in their life. I always, you know, have this sort of moment of introspection to see, is that something that I can be working through? You know, to me, really, they're everywhere.
They're are everywhere. If you listen, they're everywhere. I've gotten to a point where things would start talking to me. Don't think I'm crazy, but really,
you're not.
You know, I'd be packing my stuff. This actually did happen when I used to train for the Coaches Training Institute, and we would go to different locations around the world. And so this was back 20 years ago. And so I was packing, and suddenly my little alarm clock was like, pack me with you. I'm like, what? I don't need this little alarm clock because hotels room have a, you know, a clock right at this thing. I have my phone. What do you need that for? But that intuition spoke to me, so I put it in my bag. I got there to the hotel, and lo and behold, that night the hotel had a power outage.
Oh, look at that. I love that.
Look at that, right?
Yeah.
And so everything that's plugged into the wall was messed up, except for my battery operated simple little alarm clock. And it woke me up in time for the class and everything. It was awesome. So the universe does speak to us all the time. We just don't realize it, or we ignore it. We've been trained to ignore it and doubt ourselves. So then we don't realize that these are signs that the universe, God, if you're working in that realm, universe, if you're working in that, it doesn't matter, right? We're working together to help us get there. And it is sacred. And these and we are guided all the time.
Yes. I love your story. I'm going to share one too that I just talked to someone yesterday about. So it was April of 2020 and I was renting an office space and I had this message from out of nowhere, hey, it's time to get rid of the office space. And I couldn't figure out why, because I loved being there. And then lo and behold, the pandemic hit and, you know, that just completely shifted. And so, and I'll be honest, I didn't listen to it. And then I had to pay a couple extra months of rent. So it's like those little things Right.
Sacred truth. From don't eat that to don't
Yeah.
take that taxi to get rid of your apartment. Same for me, like I needed to get rid of my apartment, and I'm like, oh, it's coming, oh, it's coming. And then it just escalates a little louder and louder. I'm like, okay, now you have to move out now. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I
Right.
surrender. Yes. So we have established that sacred truth happens for us significantly and insignificantly, right?
Yeah.
And it comes in all signs. Clues are happening every day. We get random thoughts come into our head all the time. I mean, I literally would have a voice that says, "It's time to go," and I'm like, "What? I don't want to go yet. I really like it here. It's making good money. I don't want to." It's like, okay, it's that emoji.
Yeah.
Okay, your choice, but it's time to go. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, let me stay a little longer. Let's talk about
Yeah.
staying a little longer or staying too long.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
have to say about that, honey?
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness. Yeah. We have patterns in our brain. And I can say that, when I look back in my life, there definitely were situations where, um, I toy between this one because staying too long or staying just the right time, which maybe we have the perception that things are too long, and in the end, it's like everything works
Mm,
itself out. From jobs that we're in to relationships. Um, it's to me, it's all about the perception piece. And then recognizing that, we've got this internal brain wiring. It's running our life. It's like we don't think about it. It's happening, right?
yeah. Well, I hear you speak about is it staying too long or everything has its perfect timing?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, oh, right. It's not either or. I have a bug in front of me. It's not either or, but it's the paradox. It's a paradox
Yeah.
of like, yes, you definitely can stay too long. And how you know that you're staying too long is things get harder. Relationships get
Yes.
harder. If you're staying at a job too long, the job gets harder and
Yeah.
eventually you'll get fired. In a relationship, you stay too long, eventually somebody has to hurt, one or the other has to hurt each other or cheat on each other, which means hurt each other, or even shoot
Yeah.
each other nowadays, right? Oh,
Yeah.
it's so crazy. But I think that when you can stay too long, and at the bigger pictures of what you're talking about,
Yeah.
there is a perfect timing to it too. We don't know why we had to stay that long. We could leave earlier. There is no right or wrong here. It's just
Yeah.
that both can exist. There's perfect timing and everything is perfect in its own timing, the way it unfolds.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. And you could stay too long. So it's
Yeah.
like,
For sure. And I definitely know that along my journey, I had many instances where life did get a lot more challenging. And the
yeah.
one thing that I learned that I'd love to share is that growing up, I never expressed my emotions. So I
Mm-hmm.
also ignored what I was feeling, almost like it wasn't okay for me to feel bad. And so part of my staying too long, so to say, strategy was that I wouldn't tune into how I felt. Whereas our feelings can be an indicator that there's something, um, something's not quite right. And it's like then you sort of move into that pretending space, like, oh well, you know it's a job, and well, yeah, are you happy though? Like, what do you really want? And I find a lot of women that I meet, we don't know what we want. So it's like, how can the universe actually bring it to you when we're not specific enough?
Oh, that's such a big thing that you just said. We don't know what we want.
Yeah.
Literally, we don't know what we want. You don't know what you want in every moment. You know to complain, right? We know to complain,
Yeah.
but we rarely ask ourselves, well, what do I want? And back to this, what do I want questions again, which is when the first time you say, what do you want? You tend to think, well, I just don't want that. That's not what
Yeah.
you want, right? That's just
Yeah.
what you don't want. But the brain is
Totally.
Neanderthal. So it's like,
Yeah.
it thinks that it's answering the question. It's like, no, honey, that's not what you want. I get that, but that's not what you want. So what is
Yeah.
it that you want, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you focus more on what you don't want, and then you create more of it. So it's, it's sort of hilarious in itself. And, getting specific and having criteria is a really good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally, totally. Oh my goodness, that's funny. Uh, I just remember if hi everyone, if you're watching this, thank you for watching. I know there are millions of podcasts out there, and I'm so thrilled that you're here watching or listening to the Bold Brave Conversation broadcast. And if you are a bold and brave woman and going through some stuff in life, join my free community called the Bold Brave Women on Facebook, or you can follow me at Bold Brave Women on Instagram and be a part of the ride. Let communities of women join you, support you, tell your stories so that you can see clearer of where it is that you're going and get supported. I just love that. um so speaking of bold and brave, what is so bold and brave about listening to your own sacred truth?
Ooh, my gosh, I can just like feel that emanating off your words. Yeah, well, you know what? I think that the biggest thing is it might not be what everyone else around you wants. So it's like, right, because it's us honoring what we desire and the things that we need in our life. And so um, to me, that's a big deal. That's like your sacred truth. And like we talked about, the universe can get louder where suddenly life isn't progressing the way you want it. Again, there's clues.
Clues,
Right?
darling,
There's
clues.
clues. Yeah.
Well, again, that's such a powerful, painful thing that you just
Yeah.
said, which is it might not be what everyone else around you think you should be doing or
Yeah.
thinking or having. And because we are people, that means we are animals, and that means we need to belong in a tribe or in a group of other animals to feel safe. For someone to think that you shouldn't be doing that is one of the hardest things to overcome, right? It
Yeah.
takes so much boldness, groundedness in your own truth, knowing yourself, and bravery to look at them and say, I know you don't approve, and I'm going this way anyway.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
honey, I love you, I really, really do, and I need to separate. It's so contradicting to being human.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the sacred truth piece. You peel away the layers of what everyone else wants you to do, and then when you really start to tune into your needs and honor them, then yeah, it's unrealistic to imagine that we can make everyone around us happy. At the end of the day, it's about, what do we need to thrive and live our best life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ah, so kudos to all of us women and men, but all of us women who are listening to our own sacred truth, trying our best to follow the sacred truth and living out our sacred truth. It's not easy.
No.
None of the step is easy. And yet
Yeah.
it's super fun, it's super rewarding. And what else would
Yeah.
you be doing with your one precious life than follow your own sacred truth, right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Yay! Will you
Yeah.
please quickly tell them about your upcoming program?
Yeah, I love to. So I have a super fun 5-day event happening on April the 26th. You can go and check
Ooh,
out
that's coming
Accelerate.
around the corner.
Yes, it is. Accelerate Your Sacred Power. And it's all about 5 days to amplify your receiving power. And so, again, it's so important that we allow ourselves to step into more receiving and more aligned receiving with our sacred truth. Yeah.
That's right. And speaking of receiving, join us in our Bold Brave Women community. You can find Cindy Roemer there. She's one of our members, and we can have bigger, deeper chat. I would love to create some kind of retreat or uh, hopefully in person, but online retreat to get
Yeah.
all of us together, sharing our personal journey and what we had to learn over the lifetime so that we can become that bold and brave woman with lots of heart and love and support rather than hardworking, bold, brave woman that is angry
Yeah.
and pissed off. That's so old.
Yes. It's a lot easier to create your reality when you're more in the, hey, I want my best life, and I
That's
can leave
right.
that old story behind.
Yes. And yes, it does require walking away from relationships. It does require ending things that are no longer good for you. Those are part of your sacred truth. And
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually it will catch up with you. So you might as well listen to it early on.
Right. Exactly. And when you think about those big decisions that we actually make, once it's done, then we look back and we're like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Thought it was. Oh, before we
Yeah.
go, I have to say, I looked at your picture yesterday to make the logo for this show, and I found one of you wearing the snake. That was so awesome.
Oh,
It's not a
yes.
snake. What is that thing?
I think it's like an anaconda or
Yes,
something.
a big yellow anaconda.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the visual work at the moment, so I don't have it to show you guys yet, but it's so cool. And I
That required some bravery for
that
sure.
requires some bravery
Yeah.
for sure. I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I can't wait to show the world. This is what Cindy does in her off time. No.
Yeah.
All right. This is Mai Vu with Bold Brave Women. Again, join us in our private group. It's free, and we're all hanging out over there, sharing our stories and loving each other up and supporting each other in walking our normal everyday journey of being woman in the world.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Thanks, May.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us today
My
and sharing your
pleasure.
wisdom. I love it. Take good care of yourself, honey. Bye.
Okay, you too. Bye.